Welcome to Momentous. I am Pastor Rebecca Great, the pastor mission developer for Momentous and the host for our weekly podcast. At Momentous, we believe that God is present with us in each and every single one of our moments. We believe that our stories are connected to God's story and to one another's stories. We believe that this connection and relationship changes our lives and our entire world. Before we begin, I invite you to take a deep breath in. Hold it while you count to 3, and then slowly release that breath. Welcome to a brand new season of the Momentous podcast. All this past fall, our theme was burning questions, focusing on answering questions that were submitted by the Momentous community earlier in the year. That series began on September 10th, 2023, with an episode introducing the theme and giving an overview of what was to come. All of those episodes are still posted, so you can find the ones that are most interesting to you, and you can listen to them or re-listen to them as often as you want. Over the next few months, we are going to be in a shorter season, while we focus more on how and where God is present with us. When this particular episode drops, we will be in the middle of the season of Advent, which is the very first season of the church year. Now, the church year has a whole separate calendar from the calendars that most of us are familiar with. Like, most of us are familiar with the calendar year that begins in January or ends in December, or the academic year that begins in September and then ends in May or June, and then has summers as this like weird in-between time between calendar years. And then some of us are familiar with the fiscal year that begins and ends whenever those in charge of bookkeeping tell us that it's beneficial for those years to begin and end for our particular business or our ministry. Now, the season of Advent begins 4 Sundays ahead of Christmas Eve, except for the strange instance where Christmas Eve falls on a Sunday and then it begins 3 weeks ahead of time. And it's a whole thing. And that already is much more information or nuance than you probably really want to know about how the church year gets set up. But these weeks before Christmas, the season of Advent is a time of preparing for Christmas, the day, and the season of Christmas that comes after it. Advent is a time of remembering these ancient scriptural stories of how God promised to be present with God's people. Now, for Christians, we celebrate God dwelling among us as Jesus, this baby that was born in a manger in Bethlehem, and we gather to celebrate that at Christmas. But when we gather for worship during those weeks ahead of remembering that, during the season of Advent, many of the readings point to what we will be celebrating at Christmas, but they'll also point to how Jesus promised to return again at the end of the ages. So this is a season of contemplation and slowing down and evaluating how we are present in our relationship with God and with one another and with the rest of creation. This is a time where we are listening intently for how God, through the Holy Spirit's presence within our communities, is calling us to a more faithful way of living in caring for and serving our neighbors. This season very often seems at odds, like with all of the frenzied pace of all of the activities that are expected from us at this time of year. During worship services in the season of Advent, many churches will add a candle lighting liturgy, usually near the beginning of the service, and they light one candle at the first week of Advent and then two candles on the second week, three on the third, four on the fourth, as you do. And that's a way to mark how we are moving through this season. And while those candles are being lit, the congregation will typically sing some verses of a hymn, with one of the most commonly chosen being the hymn, O come, Emmanuel. Now, in the current hymnal that's used in many ELCA congregations, there are 8 verses to this hymn. So congregations will usually sing like 2 different verses each week. So as we move through the next 8 weeks together, we're going to be using a verse a week to guide us into how we notice God being present with us. And yes, that means we are going to be focusing in on a verse in a hymn that is usually sung during Advent after the season of Advent has ended. And I promise it will be okay. So next week, we are going to be focusing on verse 1. Now, I'm going to read the text of that verse so you can ponder these words over the next week. And then this week, I will be posting questions on our Facebook and our Instagram stories for you to respond to. And some of them will be included in next week's episode. So here is verse 1. O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice. Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. I invite you to take a few deep breaths in to help center yourself for prayer. A prayer for slowing down before Christmas. God, who has calmed the chaos since the beginning of creation, why do you think every December is like this? Did we not plan and prepare enough? Or do you think we're running from our grief of missing them? Are any of the things on our calendar what you want us to be doing? God, shake our busyness into stillness. Let the snow in our metaphorical snow globe settle as we sit beside you and notice your presence with us. Help us notice where to focus our attention and our time and our service. Show up in our days, O God. Don't let us miss it. Amen. Thank you for joining us for our weekly Moment to Us. We are looking forward to growing with each of you and are so grateful you are a part of the Momentous community. We want to say thank you to our mission partners, the Southern Ohio Synod and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Their financial contributions and prayer have been instrumental in ensuring the Momentous community continues to grow. Now, this past week, we crossed a major milestone. We have had over 3,000 downloads of the Momentous podcast across all of our platforms. So that means that the goal we set for the first year of Momentous is already met, over 4 months early. God is up to something here. We are grateful for each of you listening during your weeks and then sharing episodes with others you know. If you've missed a few episodes, that's okay. I know that I am terrible at remembering to log in and download a new episode every single week. So this is another invitation to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcasting platform so that every episode just automatically downloads and you don't have to remember one more thing to do. If you haven't yet had a chance to rate our podcast or to leave a review, I would really love for you to do that this week. Every rating and every review helps bump our podcast up on the charts and then helps more people get connected with the Momentous community and invites them into noticing God's presence within their busy moments too. Now, over the next several weeks, we have several opportunities where we can gather in the same space, either the same physical space or in the same digital space. This coming Thursday, December 21st, 2023, we are going to be gathering on the Southern Ohio Synod's YouTube channel for a worship service that will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This service has been pre-recorded with the help of several members of the Southern Ohio Synod staff and the technology help of Advent Lutheran Church in Upper Arlington, where Pastor Rebecca has supply preached several times over this past year. Now, this worship service is titled Within Our Darkest Night, and it takes its name from a hymn with that same title. This service will be a time to acknowledge that the time before and during and after the Christmas season isn't always filled with joy. This is a time of the year that is so full of traditions and gatherings, and there is heartache that comes alongside celebrating those traditions with those we love not present with us, or if we are the ones who aren't able to join in this year. Now, if you aren't able to join us online at that exact time, the service will be available on YouTube to watch afterwards, whenever you are able to watch, or if you want to re-watch the service later. The next gathering after that will be on Sunday, January 14th, and we are going to meet at 10 a.m. for Brewed Theology at Java Central in Uptown Westerville. This gathering has no set agenda, so we're just going to talk about whatever is weighing on us on that particular day. And we'll probably at some point in the conversation talk about the Bible or religion or faith or current events or how all of those things are all intertwined together. You do not have to feel like you have an answer to any of the questions that you have in order to show up for the conversation. because we're going to work toward our answers together. And each of us can share our expertise and our faith and our life experiences, knowing that God is present through all of those things. We'll plan to meet for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, kind of depending on everyone's schedule and how the conversation is going. And if you can't join us right at 10 o'clock, you are welcome to join us whenever you are able to that morning. The next gathering after that will be for Bedtime BS, or Bedtime Bible Study, on Sunday, January 28th from 7 to 8 p.m. We will be meeting on Zoom so that those who can join us for an activity in the evening but can't leave their houses because of weather or not being comfortable driving at night or having kids at home that you can't leave at home that late on a school night and all of the, whatever the reason, you are welcome to join us. For this Bible study, we are going to be starting at the very, very beginning of the Gospel according to Mark. And this is the gospel that many congregations will be focusing on for the entire church year. So we're going to join them in studying that this year. We'll meet for about an hour from about 7 to 8 p.m. before we head to whatever else our Sunday evening needs from us to be able to start the next week. So if you are definitely planning to attend, or if you're just thinking really, really hard about attending, we're asking for you to RSVP so that we know how many tables to pull together at Java Central, and so we can email you the Zoom link ahead of Bedtime BS. There is a link to the RSVP in the transcript for this episode on our website, and then it will also be shared several times on social media over the next several weeks. Anyone is able to attend these gatherings, no matter how often you have or have not attended a Christian church, and no matter how long it's been since you last attended. You do not need to have the basics of the Christian faith completely understood before you can join us. We are gathering to learn and to grow in our faith together. And we cannot wait to see you at these events. If you would like to support the ministry of MomenToUs, attending these events and inviting others to join you is one way you can do that. Engaging with us online through our social media accounts is another. And if you are able to give financially, you can visit our website and find more information about how to donate electronically or by mailing checks to our Synod's secure P.O. box. Each one-time or recurring gift combines together to ensure that the MomenToUs community continues to grow. Until our next podcast, remember to breathe deeply and that God is present with you every single moment.